All right. Happy Wednesday night. Hope you guys are doing good. Man, what a fun day. And man, I just I think there's going to be some big things that happen here at the end of the year. Teetering on a ledge right now. We got stock markets that have moved down substantially. You got people that are selling off positions. 10 straight days of negative price action in the stock market. First time that's happened since 1974. And you had the Fed lower interest rates today, and you still had negative action in the stock market. So that tells me that people are running for the door. A lot of what we've been discussing here for a long time seems to be starting to play out. I think markets are about to move down in a substantial manner as people rush to pay back loans in yen that they've borrowed. We've got tens of trillions of dollars that have been borrowed over the last 30 years. A lot since 08. We saw negative interest rates in Japan for a period of time where you were getting paid to borrow money in yen from the Bank of Japan. They've raised interest rates. We've got a Bank of Japan meeting tonight, Central Standard Time at 12:30. So it's going to be 1:30 on the East Coast. So 10:30 p.m. On the West Coast. Very interested to see what the BOJ does tonight. I will be staying up. I run the live here. I'm gonna hang out and watch some Yellowstone, and I'm staying up because I want to see what they do. If they raise interest rates, you're going to see people capitulate. You're going to see people run for the door. Treasury bonds sell off. Stock market positions sell off. A lot of people are going to be running to dollars and then swapping for the yen in order to be able to repay those loans. The margins, a lot of those loans that they were issued were variable rate loans, so they weren't fixed. And so as the Bank of Japan raises interest rates and the U.S. drops interest rates, the returns and the spread that people are going to be able to get, the margin that they had there that they were making basically riskless for a long period of time is disappearing very quickly. With that, like I said, I do think you're going to see pandemonium, especially if the Bank of Japan were to raise interest rates. It could be 25 basis points. They could really freak people out and go 50 basis points, and I think that would just exacerbate the pain. You're going to see BRICS nations, if they do that, follow on and dump U.S. debt, Project Sandman style. And again, this is all contingent on the Bank of Japan raising interest rates tonight. We've already started to see some of the unwind with people anticipating the Fed lowering interest rates today. We had an uptick in inflation. We also had, not so good jobs numbers. So the Fed obviously has to accommodate that. They have mandates. They need to keep a 2% inflation, and they need to keep people employed in the U.S. economy. And so at the end of the day, the U.S. interests is what they're supposed to be guarding for. And so that's why we did see them reduce 25 basis points today. They've also said that, moving forward, it's unlikely that they will continue to lower interest rates. I think just trying to kind of quell some of the concerns in the market around the reverse carry trade in Japan. But, we put out a full video on this earlier this year. If you're watching here on YouTube, you can go check it out. If you're here on TikTok, I'd encourage you to go look it up. Back in March of this year is when we started talking about this, where you have these dominoes that are all set up in a line. And as soon as Japan gets kicked over, the rest of them fall very quickly. A huge sell-off in markets and treasuries. And then you've got other, BRICS nations that would follow on, liquidating their exposure to U.S. dollars. Once that happens, we will have to shore up the debt market here in the U.S. The only way that we really have to do that is to rush stablecoin regulation through, which would incentivize, corporations and other people that are issuing stablecoins here in the U.S. to soak up those treasuries as the backing for their stablecoins. You'd see Amazon, Google, Facebook, McDonald's, Airbnb. I mean, there would be Apple would be another one. All issuing stable coins for their wallets and what they have. You already have your Google Wallet. You have your Apple Pay. PayPal has their stable coin. There's a ton of payment processors and providers and fintech companies that'll issue those. And now that we have ROUSD as kind of the shining star issued on the XRPL, I think many others will follow suit right behind Ripple issuing their stablecoins there on the XRPL for instant settlement, finality, and interoperability between all of the other stablecoins issued, which would obviously drive value into XRP. The other component here is that would then give the U.S. government the ability to sanction Tether, which has been, fudded for a long time. They've just continued to print, basically what seems like endless amounts of Tether buying up Bitcoin and U.S. treasuries. The Fed, and Treasury have stopped buying back U.S. debt because they've had, I don't want to say a patsy, but that's, really kind of what it's been with Tether sitting there. They're currently the fifth or sixth largest treasury holder globally. The number one holder of U.S. treasuries is Warren Buffett, sitting on the sideline. And he would be liquidating those, deploying capital at a time. He's had his money there, but there's going to be a lot of opportunities in the market if we do see, a huge move to the downside. So he will be swapping out of treasuries, also liquidating treasuries, putting pressure on that market. And again, causing more pressure for the U.S. government to issue, run through stablecoin regulations so that people would soak up those treasuries as backing. Again, just all this stuff lines up. It's ready to go, and that drives value into XRP. If Tether is sanctioned by the U.S. government, they would not be able to become compliant. They're in a lawsuit with Celsius over the Bitcoin that they have on their balance sheet. A little while back, it was worth $1.3 billion when the lawsuit, was originally issued. I think it's worth more than that now, but they would not be able to unload that and get, right with the regulations, which states that there can be no, cryptocurrency backing these stable coins. So it would just cause, a mass illiquidity across exchanges. If those accounts were to be frozen, you would need another mechanism by which to provide liquidity to exchanges. You'd see people run from Bitcoin and ETH, mass liquidations of those. Also, I'm sure that there's some money there that's been put to work in Bitcoin and ETH that's been borrowed in yen. You'd see a mass sell-off there, along with, people with uncertainty in the market looking to get out, huge liquidations on the ETFs, and that would cause unrealized losses for all the investment banks. And anybody else that's holding spot ETFs at this point. They would need to be able to settle those real time. Best way to do that is through a settlement asset. Highly confident that Project Ion could help that out on the back end of the stock market. That was developed with the DTCC and R3 back in 2022. They finalized that project. So, and it would utilize, XRP again to settle all of that volume. Around, $5-6 trillion a day, 100,000 transactions on the back end of the stock market between the clearinghouses and the brokers runs through DTCC. So we'll see. It seems like the perfect storm to me. Seems like it's all aligned, ready to go. It's just kicking that first domino off with Japan if they do decide to raise interest rates tonight. So I'm excited. Like I said, I'm staying up. I'm going to cut out of here with you guys probably a little after 10 o'clock to go, watch a little Yellowstone. But we're going to run it down like we usually do here in the chat. We got you guys over here on TikTok and here on YouTube asking really good questions, insightful questions. So we'll get through as many of them as we can tonight. And again, I appreciate you guys hanging out with me, taking the time out of your schedule. And from your family to listen in and ask great questions. So go ahead and hop on. A lot of these are going to be about what I just talked about. Atlantic Living says, I noticed Jerome Powell appeared relatively optimistic about the U.S. economy today. What are your expectations for a federal rate cut in January? If we do get an unwinding of things, I think that they could hold rates here. I think that you would see, we got a lot of things coming down the pike with Trump coming in around tax cuts and other things, and tariffs. There's a lot of things that are going to change over the next year here, like a lot of things that are going to change over the next year here. If they do roll out a lot of these technologies and allow them to be integrated in the economy, you should have real economic growth, and you shouldn't need to use the lever of interest rates or printing money. You should have real actual growth because of the advances in technology that would be implemented and the reduction in frictions, right? So just payments alone, you've got Visa, MasterCard. A lot of these people are processing payments 2, 3, 4% sometimes is what they're capturing, and that's their rate on those transactions. They could lower that to 0.5% and actually make better margins using XRP to settle, or Hyperledger, or some of these other technologies, which reduces costs across the board effectively around 2% on every single piece of the supply chain. And that adds up to big savings for retail at the end of that, and also produces economic growth as payments are able to move and settle faster across the economy. You got two different mechanisms within inflation. You've got the velocity of money and into money supply. I would expect that they'd actually be able to reduce the money supply that's out there if you did, in fact, have a higher velocity of money across the economy. So, yeah, I'm with Jerome. I'm actually extremely optimistic here for 2025. I think that you're going to see, a flurry of IPOs, but I think we are in for a rough go here at the end of 2024 for the stock market. And, I think we're positioned correctly. People that watch this on a weekly basis, or in the mastermind, or work with our family office that holds significant amounts of, utility driven digital assets like XRP, XLM, HBAR, Algorand. I think those are going to do extremely well as things progress here. Not so sure on Bitcoin and Ethereum. Not to say that they won't be around or that they won't do well. I just don't know. So I'm here for ROI, and that's why I talk about the tokens that I do. But again, like I mentioned, if we do get the implementation of AI, smart contracts, blockchain, 3D printing, there's just so many progressive technologies that can reduce frictions and increase efficiencies and drive down cost. I do think that we're going to see it have a, kind of like a fourth industrial revolution per se. David J says, "Hey Jake, USD, JPY, and DIX spiking. Stock market dumping. How soon till the big burst, in your opinion, dominoes are ready to fall?" It's what it started with, David. You and me are seeing the same thing. I think it's going to happen very quickly when it does. I'm excited for the end of the year here. A lot of people are going to be panicking, but I think those people that are holding specific assets that will benefit, from being implemented and used at scale, will be really happy come Christmas and New Year's. Xavier says, "Hey Jake, love all you do. Thank you, brother. Appreciate the kind words. You said you'll only be working with people who have at least 500K crypto portfolio in a direction for a small fry that may only possess half of that, or around 100K. You're definitely not a small fry. Like, if you're in this market right now and you have 6 digits of value in some of the assets we're talking about, I'm seeing, 10, 20, 50, 100, 500x returns on some of these assets over the next year here. So if you've already got 6 figures in there, you're not going to be a small fry for very long. I would just say hold on for the ride, enjoy it. You've done the work, you've dollar cost average, you've positioned yourself well. Make sure that you have been proactive, right? Get yourself situated with an LLC if you have that amount at a minimum, maybe even a trust. Just depends on, where you think your assets are going to go and how quickly they're going to get there. It might be advantageous to do so. If you don't, we had Brandon Avergon in our mastermind today. We talked about offshore trust and what that looks like and how to position yourself to protect your assets. And then separately of that, we talked about PPLI in order to mitigate taxes and be able to draw down, lines of credit against the cash value of those policies. We'll continue to have more professionals that are on par with Brandon and his expertise in different verticals, that we bring in and consult with in the family office, come into the mastermind and speak about different topics to help people there. Excited for that. We've just really tried to build out a network over the past 3 years that we can make sure we make the most of the appreciation on these assets with. You're definitely not a small fry. And I would say don't talk about yourself that way. I think that you will be far above and beyond the threshold in a very short period of time, Xavier, and we're excited to work with you on the other side of that. We have the old man of XRP. He says, we just want to say thank you for all that you're doing. Thank you for being here and the kind words. You and your team provide outstanding service and content, and I'm enjoying your Discord very much. Glad to hear that, man. Yeah, like I said, we have really good people and professionals that we've been able to create relationships with over the past couple years here. Continue to develop products and things that are going to be very beneficial for people that come into wealth through their digital assets. And, a lot of it's been selfish for me. It's all stuff that I wanted. And it's been really cool to have good people participate with us and also see the value in what we're doing. So thank you for the kind words. And we'll just, if you have anything that you think of that we can do for you guys outside of what we're already doing, if there's any type of product or service that you think would be beneficial, if we don't already provide it, we would love to look at doing it. Robert, he says, no questions. Thank you for the super chat. Just a simple show of appreciation for all you do for the Beyond Broke Mastermind family. We love you and appreciate you beyond words. Thank you, Robert. I cannot express how grateful and blessed I feel to be part of the group that we have built there and the culture that exists in the mastermind. More than 1,000 people there in that group. We started that. It'll be 2 years, January 6th, 2025, that we, put that out to originally. I used to do a lot of these lives on X and I did for 8 months, just in the mornings on Saturdays or Sundays, talking about a lot of the stuff that I was working on and ways that I was setting myself up for success in my estate and mitigating taxes and wealthy mindset and all the different things that you could be doing to be proactive, And so when we put that out to people and they immediately jumped on board, we got to work and built out the website and the Discord and everything that we have there now, along with all the other resources. And like I said, just continue to go to events and build out our network of professionals that we can provide value with. So thank you. Thank you for being part of the community and thank you for helping people in there. So you comment all the time when people have good questions and you're able to answer them very quickly. So, and that's what it's about. It's a group of people that want to help one another, have aligned interest, and I'm excited to see where it goes on the other side of price appreciation. And just before we get to the next one, we are going to lock that down. If you do want to be part of the community, it is up here at this website. It's beyondbroke.com. Go check it out. If you want to try it out for free, there is a code. It's Beyond Broke, just like it's spelled there, but all capitalized. The number 1 and then MO like month, all capitalized, get you a free month in Carbon 1 or Social. You can try Carbon 2 if you want to. It's a little bit further along as far as estate planning, and we have a lot of high-level professionals in that group that are, either running a business or looking to exit a business or work as a C-suite executive somewhere. Have a little bit more capital to deploy, a little higher income, but we have, extra meetings with that group on Tuesdays. We do run private deals in the community. Can't talk about them publicly here because they're 506B. So, if you do want to join and see what those look like, investments in fintech companies, you can go check it out there in the group. It is, again, mastermind.beyondbroke.com. And we are going to lock it down, and we're raising prices 10x on the other side of a $10 XRP. We'll lock it down for 30 days and put in a very stringent application process to protect the people that are there and make sure that the people that are joining beyond that point have good intentions and are aligned with the culture and the community. So, Bluebird Chicken 41, interesting name. They say, hey Jake, you talked about a couple months ago that the XDC could eventually go to double digits or even higher. Then a few weeks ago you said maybe $3 to $5. What changed your mind? It's really just the adoption. So I haven't changed my mind at all. I think $3 to $5 is likely if it's just trade finance. If there are other applications in which XDC is deployed or used, so there's other types of contracts that are issued on the network that have value and are exchangeable, I think that you could see it, go beyond that to double digits. First price stop for me is, again, somewhere $3 to $5, I think is very reasonable if it is adopted at scale for trade finance. I'm missing stuff over here on TikTok, so I'm gonna go back up and just grab a few here. BlackRock stable options. I don't know. BlackRock could definitely issue a stable coin. I think that they are involved with Ripple in a much greater capacity than most people realize. We got Justin Hawkins. He says, is Bitcoin going to be a massive rug pull? I don't wish that. I want to be wrong about that. We have clients that have significant allocations to Bitcoin. It's been a blue chip. It is the front runner. It's the brand name that people know and trust. It has done extremely well over its lifetime up to this point. Could we see it drop back below, there's some people calling for 17,000. At 17,000, it becomes very difficult to make money as a miner on the network. That would be far below the energy costs now that we've seen the halving and the rewards have been cut in half again. That might have been feasible, previous to the halving, but at this point, I think they need somewhere between $25,000 and $27,000 per Bitcoin just to be able to cover energy costs for mining coins on the network. So I don't want to see that. I don't want to see it be a big rug pull, but I do think if they were to cut Tether's legs out from underneath it or use it as a tool to create illiquidity across crypto exchanges, I think there could be significant impacts on Bitcoin that just have not been forecasted by the majority of people. And I don't know what that looks like. I don't know what price it goes to. Is its intrinsic value actually $100,000? It's worth what people are willing to pay for it, right? So on the other side of something happening to Tether, I do think that there's going to be significantly less value in Bitcoin. I just don't know if it's a $50,000 Bitcoin, a $3,000 Bitcoin, a $25,000 Bitcoin. Maybe it stays where it's at because of the ETFs. I don't have an answer. I wish I had a crystal ball. I can tell you that we have positions to hedge using shorts against the ETF. So I do think there's some downside. I just don't know how far down that goes. That one mom, she says, will XRP come back with BlackRock coming out with its own stablecoin? Again, so I think there's a misconception here around stablecoins and how they work. Let's say I want to buy stocks, tokenized stocks, and I want to use BlackRock stablecoin. If the other party wants that stablecoin, then that's fine. If I'm buying a stock from BlackRock, sure, they probably want their own stablecoin. They trust themselves. But if I want to buy that from Goldman or Fidelity or one of the other brokers, they may not want BlackRock's stablecoin. They probably want their own that they know is audited. And it's not to say that they don't trust BlackRock, but counterparty risk, right? So in that circumstance, they may convert that, even if it's a dollar-denominated stablecoin, from BlackRock's stablecoin to their stablecoin on the other side of that transaction. And that value would need to flow through, you guessed it, XRP, as long as both of those assets were native assets on that chain, which I do think that they will be. So you'd swap the stock, again, built-in DEX on the XRPL that could do that for you and swap between the stablecoin and the stock that was issued on the network. Let's say you wanted a different currency on the other side of the transaction. right? So I want to pay in dollars, but the merchant or whoever I'm transacting with, the other bank or fiduciary, wants euros on the other side of the transaction. That's another time when I would have to basically swap into XRP, send it to them. They would swap for euros on the other side of the transaction. So there's still going to be a huge need for a bridge asset that sits between the exchange between parties. One, they may not trust the counterparty that they're transacting with to maintain the stablecoin or the treasury that's required for that. Or they may want another denomination of asset on the other side of that transaction, separate of what's being paid into the transaction. It's going to be the ultimate form of barter, basically, right? So how many chickens are my cows worth, right? You would know using this system. And that may be a crude example, but any issued asset on the XRPL is exchangeable for any other issued asset on the XRPL. And if both parties just want the same asset in the exchange of value, again, like let's say you're paying in the BlackRock stablecoin and the other party will accept that, then again, you're right. You don't need an intermediary asset for that transaction, but that's going to be, I don't want to say few and far between, but a lot less frequent than where you're going to need to swap for something else through XRP. So. An XLM would work the same way. There's probably some situations in which XDC sits in that example. Anything that has X in front of it, just so you guys know, doesn't have a country of origin. It's agnostic. It's not issued by an authority. So the ticker for gold is XAU, right? That's why you see these X assets, and people believe that those are much more likely adopted in this use case versus something else that's just a stable coin. It's not beholden to any centralized party or issued by any centralized party, and therefore trusted by the people that are transacting over the network. Honest Aim, thank you for the super chat, brother. He says, Jake, unbelievable what you're bringing to the mastermind. Just this week, buying a business without buying a job, and life insurance like a Rockefeller. Incredible generational wealth building knowledge. Thank you. Yeah, we had the pleasure of having Ben Kelly in there on Monday, talking about how to acquire businesses. That's another huge wealth generating opportunity over the next 10 years here as baby boomers retire and their children don't want their businesses. There's a lot of boring, great, stable, cash flowing businesses that are just closing shop because they don't have an outlet. Ben teaches his students over there in Acquisition Ace in that community how to acquire those businesses through SBA loans or owner financing, get creative on how to structure a deal with a business owner. So he was able to come into our mastermind and talk about some of those ways earlier this week on Monday. And again, we're going to continue to try to bring value to our group outside of just digital assets, because I do think, I don't want to say the time for the opportunity here in digital assets is ending, but I think the opportunity is going to be, the door on that opportunity is closing very quickly. I think you're going to see significant appreciation in a very short period of time on a few assets. And those people that have aggregated large amounts of those will have a lot of capital and collateral that they can use to deploy into other ventures. And that's what we're going to be focusing on, here in 2025 for that group of people, providing value and resources across the board in real estate, M&A transactions, creative deals, private credit, private debt. There's a lot of other things outside of the scope of digital assets. And obviously, we'll have myself and many others there in the community that champion this asset class and are still continuing to talk about opportunities there. But we want to broaden our horizons and make sure we're providing as much value as we can to the community. Go ahead and make sure. Here we go. Here's another good question. James, thank you for the super chat, brother. He says, hey, Jake, thank you. I tried to reach out to you by email. I was hoping to touch base with you. I know you have many things going on. Freg W emailed me and I may respond tomorrow. Can we reach you for short consultations? You can. I haven't ever said this publicly before, but I will put it out here for you. I've raised my rate. Originally I did all the consults for everything. I did, I don't know, in 2023. Well, actually it's probably 22. In late 22, I took somewhere around 70 or 80 consults for free, working with people, and then we started charging in 23. And over time, I've been able to put together a really good team that knows as much or more than me around all this stuff. If you spoke with Fred, he's been through the whole process himself. He has set up, his estate and been through everything that we offer, along with the wealth management for his own assets and everything else. And he is a licensed financial advisor, great pedigree and understanding of what actually goes on. So he is more than capable of helping you. But if you do want to talk to me for whatever reason, you can book a time through the website, digitalfamilyoffice.io. Or if you want the cheaper route, you can join the mastermind and get in Carbon 2. And I do offer my time up in little chunks to the members there in the mastermind that are in Carbon 2. So, it's significantly cheaper than paying for, a 30-minute slot for $1,000. You get all the value of the mastermind. And if you do want to take, 15 minutes on my calendar here or there, I try to make time for that group. So thank you for the super chat. Would love to chat with you. And again, if you want to join Carbon 2 there in the mastermind, you do get some access to me for, like you said, a short consult. Happy to jump on a call with you using the link that's provided to that group. Let's see here. Making sure I'm not missing anything. Where are we at over here on TikTok? Pepe, your thoughts, please. Anything that's a meme token, I don't know where it ends up. I think that these social tokens could actually become something that's backed by data or other types of stable coins in some capacity. Doge is really interesting to me that they've pumped it up as much as they have. I met with a guy today over the phone, not in person. Hopefully we get to meet with him in person soon. He bought $15,000 worth of Doge when it was 0.000017. He's doing pretty good. Pepe, same way. I know some people that got in super early on Pepe or some of these other meme coins. I think they're going to get regulated. I think Miss Welch, put a lot of spotlight on that, and now she's kind of just disappeared with her money that she made off of her meme coin. I think the U.S. government's going to come in and regulate it, but I do think the ones that are already adopted at scale, like Pepe and Sheeb and Doge, I think that there's enough social infrastructure there and people that want to utilize that token that hold enough of it that they could probably turn it into some type of currency that's exchanged. I don't know what actual regulations are going to come out around it, so not sure. I think that memes will still be around long term. Ben, Bitcoin Ben, or Crypto Ben, whatever you want to call him. He said that he thinks that meme coins end up like penny stocks or pink sheets. I think he's spot on with that. I think there's always going to be some type of, low end, low cap, crazy appreciation opportunity, sketchy stuff that goes on. There's money to be made there. It's not anywhere I play personally. I would rather bet on a thing that I am absolutely sure on and go all in on that versus gambling. And being in crypto and all this stuff, it seems like all of it's a gamble. But when you've done the research and you have understanding and you've had the conversations that I've had with people, that XRP and some of these other ones are a sure thing. We do have another super chat. Monopoly Man, he says, thank you for the super chat, by the way. He says, hey, Jake, what are your thoughts on XRP being gas for RLUSD? This has been buzzing around. If so, what would the effect be? So any transaction on the XRPL is going to require XRP to be burnt to be able to settle that transaction. it's it's like a tiny piece, right? So I think we're at, we've burnt maybe 1 million XRP over the life of the network at this point, which is not that much in comparison to 10 billion, 100 billion XRP. Even at scale, I think the network could last 1,000 years with the current burn rate on the assets, and they could vote to lower that amount over time. But yeah, any issued assets on the XRP are going to require a little bit XRP to be burnt in order to settle those transactions as gas fees, which is, Ripple's got plenty of XRP to be able to cover the gas fees. I like it. I want a deflationary asset. I believe, people talk about Bitcoin being deflationary. It's not really. There are more Bitcoin minted and put out on the market every single day. It is less inflationary than other things, right? There's less and less Bitcoin being put onto the market every halving that happens, but it's still inflationary. There's 19.8 million Bitcoin currently on the market, 21 million total Bitcoin. Last one's supposed to be mined in like 2142. I'm highly confident that a quantum computer will hack that network and mine the rest of the Bitcoin in like a week when they are at scale. You had somebody else ask Sailor the other day about transactions on that network and incentivizing miners beyond when all the Bitcoin's been mined, and he didn't have a really good answer for that, because there isn't one. Once the incentive's gone, you're not going to see people mining on that network. I do think that it could be wrapped as collateral on other networks and used in that capacity. Digital gold still kind of makes sense for me. I just don't know what the actual value of it is without being inflated by Tether. So, but I digress. Let's see. Am I missing anything else on this side? No, we'll go back up and try to knock out a lot of these questions here. So, Sweet Potato 2. They say, hey, Jake, you mentioned earlier that you thought the domino theory and the sanctions of Tether would take place this year, but we're close to the end now. And I was wondering if your time span had changed. No, it's not changed. Coming down to the end of it. I think 2024 might end with a bang. Eric, how far are we from seeing the stock market getting tokenized on the XRPL? If you believe it will happen, and could that cause price to go to 3 digits or maybe even 4 digits? So I don't think the stock market will ever be tokenized on the XRPL. Let me be clear about that. I think that it'll settle on the XRPL, and I think XRP could definitely do that. Highly confident that Corda will be used for tokenized securities, and R3 already developed Project Ion with the DTCC for that exact use case that you're mentioning there for the back-end settlement of stocks. To see the stocks tokenize themselves, I think might take longer and may end up being on other networks, right? So the back-end settlement of it can be separate of the actual tokenization of the market. Polymath is positioned really well for that use case, along with some others. You've got Figure, which uses provenance, which is a derivative of Cosmos. Some of these other chains, I think they need to be interoperable, but so you've got the Cactus protocol that allows for interoperability between Corda, Hyperledger, and any EVM-based chain. So if you did issue securities on Hyperledger or on an EVM based chain, you could still potentially settle through Corda using XRP, or you could bridge to Axelar and also do it that way. Hyperledger obviously uses XLM and is very compatible or similar to XRP. It's like I don't want to say it's not a fork of the network, but it's a replica. They just didn't black hole the original account like they did with the XRPL. So anyway, I do think that we're going to see 3 or 4 digit XRP, and I do think it'll settle the back end of the stock market, but I don't know that requires that stocks need to be tokenized in order to do that. drive the price to that level, I guess is what I'm saying. We have MGK. They say, hey, Jake, great content. Appreciate you. Use your LLC service. Awesome. And he's in Carbon One. Great to have you in there, brother. Can you explain the process of cashing out crypto through my LLC, Mercury Bank, Anchorage, and then into my personal account? Thanks. So you're working it all the way back to your personal account. You've done great, by the way. If you've been proactive and you've used our service at digitalfamilyoffice.io, you set up an LLC. We do have it listed there for $3,000. If for you guys tonight, you can put in the code 50 off OFFDAG, like Digital Ascension Group LLC, and that gets you 50% off of the $3,000. So $1,500 gets you EIN, articles of incorporation, registered agent, certificate of good standing, BOIR if you want it, and then the template for the operating agreement along with the step-by-step process on how to move your wallet and your assets into the LLC as a capital contribution, get that notarized, and then also a video on how to set up a bank account there at Mercury, which this person's done. And then once you have the LLC, if you do have over 500,000, we're happy to work with you and hold those assets in institutional custody at Anchorage, which it seems like this person's interested in. So let's say, XRP blows up tomorrow, right? We get the unwind of the reverse carry trade and they roll it out and we see price go through the roof and people are excited and you want to sell something, right? Maybe you want to pay your house off, right? Or you want to buy a vehicle. You want to do something that you've, made this investment to do. You would sell some of your XRP there in Anchorage or on whatever exchange you chose to do so. You would have capital gains on that. So just be aware of that, whether that's short-term or long-term, depending on how long you've held the asset. I would set aside 20 to 30% of that money just for the taxes. The rest of that, I would leave that money in the LLC. And then I would, it's at the end of the year here, you're entitled to a distribution if you're using our operating agreement. As the managing member, you could make that distribution to your personal account here in December for the quarterly distribution that you would be owed. You would only pay taxes one time because you would file as an S Corp as a pass-through entity. And you would meet, you would have paid yourself enough as a reasonable salary. Hopefully you're doing that because that is one of the stipulations there. So you need to pay the W-2 taxes on, $50,000 worth of whatever it was that you took out. So Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security. But the rest of it could be paid to you in a dividend, which is exempt from that 13.5% that you would owe for the other piece of it. And you would then be able to use that money as you please. That other 20 or 30% that you set aside for taxes, you would just know that you owed. If you wanted to be able to offset that, there's a couple different ways here at the end of the year that you could buy yourself some more time. So you set up life insurance policy and be able to fund it in kind with the rest of the XRP or a portion of your digital assets, and be able to offset those taxes. You could try to get that done before the end of the year. It'd be difficult to set up that PPLI policy before the end of the year and get it funded. The other way that I think I would probably recommend at this point, with just 13 days left in December, would be to file a 1028 with the IRS, which allows you to change the date for your tax year. You can do that once every 10 years for your LLC. Or if you're just now setting the LLC up, you might even think about this and just make your tax year close on September 31st. And so if you're cashing out this month on December 31st, it doesn't give you a whole lot of time to spend that money and offset those tax implications. And then that would give you another 10 months into the future to be able to spend or do other things with it, travel, in order to be able to offset those tax implications that you would have incurred. And then maybe you don't have to use that 20 or 30% that you set aside to pay the taxes. Maybe you can use it for other stuff or reinvest it into things. But that would be like just the logical process that I would walk through in that situation. Hopefully that's valuable for you and anybody else that's watching here. And I haven't said this, but if you do like this content, please like, subscribe, notification bell, that type of stuff, share with somebody. It does help the channel grow. And if this value is something that's video or content is something that you think is valuable, it is appreciated if it's shared. So over here on TikTok, we've got the Zaman wallet. Okay. Yes. AVAX ? Also, yes, I like AVAX. Avalabs has a good foundation. If you're looking to develop something, they will give you a grant. Those guys are good over there. Any thoughts on HBAR? Love HBAR. HBAR is here in Dallas with me, Hedera Hashgraph. We met their founders this year at Consensus, talked to them. We had one of their large partners with us at the family office event that we put on in September this year that came and spoke. Super bullish on HBAR and the ETFs that are right around the corner for that here in 2025 as well. I think HBAR is a sleeper that a lot of people just aren't paying attention to. Now that XRP's run up a little bit, there's a little more traction in the market and people are paying attention. But I still think there's more ROI on XRP than HBAR in the short term. Over the long term, I still think there's more ROI on XRP. But HBAR is the next thing I'm looking at after we do see some significant price appreciation on XRP. I'm going to be headed over to HBAR. That's where my next investment is going to be. Is XDC the way to go? Again, XDC is where we at today. We have the numbers over here in the Discord. Let me look at it. We are 7 cents on XDC today. So, if it gets to $3 to $5, still a crazy good return there. It's not quite 100x like I think some of these other tokens will be. But XRP again and XDC have both appreciated a little bit since the bottom of the bear market in October, or a bit before that. I still think they have a lot of upside. So if you just said, is XDC good? Yes, I think it's good. Anything that gives you double digit, X returns, thousands of percent is a fantastic opportunity. And which is crazy to think about, right? Like, as an example, I was in New York earlier this year talking to some of our partners for the fund. Brilliant gentlemen that have been around the block, high-level executives at companies you would know. And, I was telling them about this being a quote-unquote once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. And, again, they're older than me. I always try to learn from people that have been, further along in different career paths and have a deeper understanding just around life in general than I do. I'm only 33. So if you've got, 60 years worth of experience, you've had some up and downs and opportunities that you have, taken, capitalized on, and some you missed too. But I was telling them, I think this is literally a once in a lifetime opportunity. And they were like, nah, there'll be more of those, but really in crypto, there's not, in our lifetimes, there's not going to be another time where there's an unregulated asset class that's emerging that's going to be used at scale across global economies that you can buy before the institutions do. It's not going to happen. I can't guarantee it, but I could pretty much guarantee it, right? So if you are here now, you're in digital assets, you have positions, and you're looking at utility-based tokens that are going to be used in the economy, once in a lifetime, period, full stop, in my opinion. To get a 20, 50, 100, 1000x return on something, unless you were in, again, like the .com boom and you got Cisco or you got Amazon or you got Apple, like, and to pick that when there's so many other ones that you could pick, right? People that got in on Doge, people that got in on Bitcoin, like, to have this much value created and moved into an asset class in this period of time, it's not, again, I just don't see it happening again. I think digital assets are going to be the 12th sector of the S&P, and just going to create so much opportunity and efficiencies across the economy at scale that they're going to have a lasting impact for the next 100 years, right? Like the last industrial revolution was almost 100 years ago. Well, actually, it was about 100 years ago. So we're not going to see this again in my lifetime, unless I live to be like 150, which cool, I might, with advances in technology and you know, medication and all the other things. But current lifetimes, I don't think you're going to get another one of these. So Dustin's asked, how long would you hold 40,000 XRP? Would you liquidate at a certain price point? You're never wrong to take profit. Never go broke taking profit. Just be aware of the tax implications. I'll say this though about XRP in particular. I'm highly confident that it becomes a tier 1 asset in the banking system. They've talked to the BIS, they've talked to the IMF, Ripple, and R3, other people that are using XRP. If it becomes a tier 1 asset globally, which is riskless, right, and can be the backing for derivatives, it's a golden goose, man. It's going to lay golden eggs the rest of your life. It's not going to be taxable. Like, you're just going to get so many advantages from holding that asset and providing liquidity in certain ecosystems, whether that's AMMs or liquidity pools or borrowing against it, using it as an infinite banking concept. I just think there's so many better options holding it than there is liquidating it. But again, you may have certain circumstances in your life that require to liquidate a portion of it. If we saw 10, 20, 50, 100, 200, $500,000 XRP, there's price points there where you probably want to sell some, right? You need dollars to operate in the economy that we exist in currently, or whatever currency, is in your country. I'm sure we have people here that are, in Europe that are watching. We've got people that are in Australia. We've got people in Japan. We've got people in the EU, South America. Everybody has their own currency that they have to use in order to buy stuff in your country, right? XRP doesn't buy stuff. My wife tells me that all the time. So, not yet it doesn't. Anyway, I don't know how long you want to hold it, right? I don't know what price point makes the most sense for you. I would have some type of exit strategy, whether that is to hold it long term and borrow against it so that you don't have taxable income, and you know that you can service that debt by putting that cash to work somewhere else to generate enough cash flow to service the debt and pay yourself. Could put that into real estate or other businesses where you can pass that depreciation back to yourself and offset the taxable income. That's a lot of things we work with our clients on through Digital Wealth Partners, which is the wealth management arm of Digital Ascension Group. If you guys want to chat with them about some of those strategies, you can email info@digitalwealthpartners.net. Or again, you can email us. We're happy to talk to you as well, but we can't give financial advice. We can just talk about what we're doing, which is what I was talking about just then. Entertainment and educational purposes only, as usual. None of this is financial advice. You can speak with our financial advisors at Digital Wealth Partners if you want to make those decisions. So anyway, and not to pick on you, but people ask me similar questions all the time. Hopefully I can give you a framework to think about it. The other thing that I'll mention here is I try to put myself in a position for what my life would look like in my ideal life, my expenses, and what financial freedom in that position would look like. So the paradigm that I have for that, and it's different for everyone. Some people think they need to be a millionaire in order to be, financially free. It's not necessarily the case. If you're comfortable and happy with $5,000 a month worth of expenses, you just need $10,000 a month in passive income. Double your expenses in passive income is my definition of financially free. That'd give you 120 grand a year. You might live somewhere cheap. I live way out, right? It's cheap to live where I live. If you live in Arkansas, it might be cheap there. Oklahoma might be cheap there. If you're on either coast, you're probably not getting by on 120 grand, at least not comfortably. But if you're in middle America, or you're in another country, maybe you're in Thailand, right? Like, or you're in Mexico. $120,000 US in both those jurisdictions goes a long way. Turkey, we went to Turkey to get my hairline done earlier this year. It was like 30 cents for a Coke in Turkey. Okay. So depends on where you live, but if you can work backwards from that, so let's say you're going to earn 10% on your money, you need $120,000 a year, that'd be 1.2 million, right? So maybe you do need to be a millionaire in order to get that much, but that's $10,000 a month, pretty passive. It's much more likely you're going to have to be somewhere around 2.4 million and earning 5% in treasuries or something else. That give you again that $120,000 a year. And again, if your expenses every month are $5,000 and you're getting 10, doing pretty good, right? You could choose to spend your time how you want to use your time. So I would just back into that. So you said 40,000 XRP. What does the price need to be able to generate 5% returns and put it to work somewhere simple and pay you cash every single month to live your dream lifestyle? For me, I'm proud to say that I'm a dreamer. And to have everything that I would like to provide for my family and myself, it's probably, I know what it is, it's about $60,000 a month. And so for me to double that, I need 120,000 worth of income. So that ends up being, 1.6 million a year ish. So at a 10% interest, which I'd be a little more risk, I'm a little earlier on, so I have a little bit higher risk tolerance. I'd be willing to take some things that were a little bit riskier on that curve. So 10% yield. So I need about 16 million parked somewhere earning 10% to be able to pay for the lifestyle that I'd like to afford and have the extra to make sure that I'm never worried about anything. So anyway, that's my number. Not saying that needs to be your number, but at least I know what mine is. I've written it down. These are all the things I'd like to have. This is what they cost every month if I financed them. That's what it comes out to. So let's see here. We've got Kazan. They say, hey, Jake, I used DAG to open my digital asset LLC. Awesome. Haven't signed the operating agreement yet because it's a multi-member LLC with my spouse. Is it advisable to switch over to a single-member LLC before capital contribution page? Yes, I would do that, especially since we've seen some price appreciation from where you purchase the assets likely. I would do a single-member LLC. And if you wanted to add other people to the cap table, most, like 46 states have spousal rights where, upon your passing, God forbid, your spouse is entitled to all of the assets and debts associated with your LLC. So in that circumstance, all those assets would pass to your spouse, irrespective of them being a 50% owner. Some people just want visibility for their spouse or to have them on bank accounts. You can do that without them being an owner in the business. If you feel adamant that they need to be an owner in the business for whatever reason, you can gift them a small piece of equity while the value is low. And not having any real issues in doing that. But I would set it up as a single member to begin with, because when you're moving the assets in there, you don't want there to be a taxable event. You want to maintain the basis and the time frame that you've held them. And so that would be my recommendation, would be to use a single member LLC and a single member operating agreement. You can get by with like a family limited partnership, and a disregarded entity does some similar things, but just for your circumstance, I do think that the single member LLC would be the ideal way to go. And you can just email, Jonathan, who you would have likely gotten the information from, and just say, hey, can you send me the single member LLC, and we'll get it taken care of for you. Alex says, win $10,000 per XRP. Derivatives. Yeah, once Codius is live and we see XRP settling the derivatives market, I think that's somewhere between 2026 and 2028. If we do get adoption this year, or early in 25 for Swift and some of the other applications that we're hopeful for. I think that you could absolutely see a $10,000 XRP 2026 to 2028. But again, that's contingent on derivatives moving on chain and being settled on the XRPL, or again, being issued in Corda or another interoperable network and still utilizing XRP to settle. Let's see where we're at over here on TikTok. Appreciate you guys hanging out with me. We got 88 people over here on TikTok. Hey, Jake, Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas. Hope you're doing well. Appreciate you, XRP Queen. She says she likes XDC. I mean, I do too. I just don't currently own any because I think there's a higher ROI on XRP. Can't even says, I have cash value life insurance for some of my cash flow, but where should I put the other cash flow? That is your prerogative, right? Investing in assets or things that offset tax implications is always great. Protecting those assets inside of a trust, structuring things in an annuity or other things that are going to pay you. I don't know how old you are. There's a lot of considerations around where you might park that other cash. Leaving it in a bank account probably doesn't make a whole lot of sense right now. I think there's some significant opportunities in the market that are, just outsized opportunities to leave cash laying around in bank accounts or CDs. People still buying CDs. Digital assets, would probably be my recommendation, but I can't give you one because I'm not a financial advisor. It's just what I do. So it's up to you. I can't give you financial advice. Can you stake XRP? So there is no native staking on chain for XRP. We are working with a gentleman that's created a restaking protocol that we can work with outside of, actually inside of institutional custody. And you basically kind of wrap your XRP and use it to not validate, but secure other networks. And there is a yield for doing that, basically as using it as collateral and doing so. So there's going to be other solutions like that. I think that the main way that people are going to be able to generate yield with their XRP native to the network are going to be AMMs or automated market makers once they're a bit more scaled and stable. And then also the liquidity pools, which are the amendments XLS 64, 65, and 66. There'll be a borrow and lend protocol that rolls out, I think, probably around May of 2025. And then you could obviously lend your XRP as well. Again, as collateral, people will use it and they will pay you an interest rate. Thank you, Kevin, as always, for all of the gifted memberships over here. Kevin's an OG back when I had just a Facebook group 4 years ago. So appreciate him hanging out and sticking it out with me this long. There's a lot of people that have been here a long time with conviction on some of these assets. I was hopeful that things would happen sooner, but if they had, then I think a lot of people would have been left out in the cold and not had the opportunity to dollar cost average or take advantage of this once in a lifetime opportunity, right? So some people are upset about the lawsuit that Gary issued against Ripple and holding the industry back for the last 4 years. But at the end of the day, I'm actually very thankful that happened. We definitely wouldn't have been able to build what we have in the last 4 years had that not happened. And I think there's a lot of people that would have significantly less assets than they currently have if that time hadn't passed and that opportunity hadn't been there. I'm going to hang out for another maybe 10 minutes here and then we'll wrap it up. Before I take some more questions, I do just want to remind you guys, if you do think this is valuable, we talk about this stuff and way more than I talk about publicly. They're in the mastermind on Saturdays and Mondays. We have digital asset discussion at 11 a.m. Central Standard Time every Monday. And Saturday mornings, we do the town hall, get into all the different opportunities as far as investments that we coordinate and syndicate there in the mastermind, along with macroeconomics, some of the things we talk about here, where we're at with digital assets, along with conversations that I'm having with Ripple or R3 or other counterparties and people in the ecosystem that we have the privilege of talking to. Very grateful for those opportunities. Talk about those things and those discussions there in the mastermind. I don't normally discuss those things here publicly. And then obviously we do AMA there, but it's a bit more centered around, what it looks like post price appreciation, how to mitigate taxes, set up your estate. We have insurance in the mastermind. I don't mention this often, but we do have group insurance for people. So if you are an entrepreneur or you plan on leaving your job post price appreciation, but you want that, health insurance, and that matters to you, which I think it should. You never know what's going to happen. We do have group coverage there in the mastermind, which no other group that I'm aware of even offers anything like that. So anyway, tons of stuff there. Again, if that interests you and you want to try it out for free and get in, it locks in prices. So anybody that's in now, even if they're there for a free month, you don't have, the prices don't jump up on you. You're in, you don't have to worry about, us locking people out on the other side of the $10 XRP. The code is Beyond Broke, all capitalized, the number 1, and then MO gets you, free month at any one of the first 3 tiers there. Is Jake holding XRP? That's all I got. It's literally all I own. Outside of the equity in the businesses that I have, I do not own any other digital asset. And that, you could say that makes me a maxi. If you could show me something else that's going to have a higher return over the next 5 years, I'll invest in that. I'm here for ROI. I'm here for cash flow. I'm here for the ability to borrow against it. And I've built out the services through our group and family office to be able to do all those things with your XRP. Because I've, again, selfish, but it helps the entire community because we've already got ourselves in position to be able to provide all those services. Quant. I think Quant has some upside. I just don't understand the value proposition. It's to pay fees on the network to be able to participate and license Overledger. It's not to actually move value across the network. So could it appreciate? It's a low supply. People buy it up, supply and demand. I do think that Overledger will definitely be used. They're part of the Digital Pound Foundation. I don't see the same upside in Quant, which I've already made a bunch of money on Quant in the past, just full disclosure, as I do for some of these other assets. Let's see here. Here's one. Scruff. It's an interesting way to spell it. They say, hey, Jake, what do you think is the likelihood XRP reaches $100 in 2025? I don't think it'll be in 2025. I think it could be in 2024. BCB thinks the price is nonsense and that people will be disappointed if they think that will happen. Cheers from Norway. Hey, very cool to see you. Good morning there in Norway. Thank you for taking time out and drinking some coffee and hanging out with us. I think so. BCB, I think, is extremely intelligent. He sees patterns and recognizes those in ways that I don't think anybody else in TA in digital assets does. He's called a lot of things up to this point, but he also talks about constraints, right? So as long as constraints remain the same within the market, BTC is the leader. Tether is still here. Ethereum's number 2. Exchanges have the liquidity that they do and regulations aren't in place. Great. I think he'll be right. But if constraints change, if we see Tether sanctioned, if we see anomalies that he hasn't forecasted into his projections or models brought forth, then I think he could be wrong on this one. And I think he would be happy to be wrong on this one because I know he's got a fat bag of XRP. But he is looking to sell, his price target's $10. He's going to liquidate, 70% of his bag. That's kind of his his exit plan, and has always been for a lot of his assets, is he sells, up at certain price points up to 70% of the bag and lets 30 ride. I don't think that's a bad way to go about it, especially if you got, I don't know what BCB has, but if he's got 1 million, 2 million, 5 million XRP that he's been able to buy over the past, 3-4 years here from his income off of YouTube and making good trades. If he liquidates 70%, even if he had 1 million XRP and he sells 700,000 at $10, that's 7 mil that he pockets, and he lets the other 3 million or 300,000 XRP ride. You know what I mean? Which I think would still create generational wealth for him and his family as asset continues to appreciate to 1,000, 10,000, $100, wherever it goes here in 2024, 2025. So anyway, I think, people that have accumulated significant amounts, you don't need to hold all of it, right? Just be aware of the tax implications, which I know he is. He's very diligent about that. Sharp guy. I've met him in person multiple times. I applaud his, his content. I watch him. He's probably one of the few people I watch, not on a daily basis, but at least a weekly basis. I watch a BCB video. He's my TA guy. I do think he's going to be pleasantly surprised on XRP, though. We got another 5 minutes here. Let's go ahead and go back over to TikTok for a second. We'll run some more things down. How do you feel that XRP tested 260 and could not push over? Not really concerned about TA. Again, that's not my domain. I'm looking at macroeconomic events, geopolitical events, and catalyst for driving the adoption of the token. I'm not really worried about anything less than $100 per XRP, just candidly. Till it gets there, it can waddle around. I'll continue to buy it at whatever price point it is. Don't really care what the chart says or does, because I know there's going to come a point where it's used and they're going to drive liquidity into it. And all this, the domino theory is going to play out, and you're going to be amazed at how quickly it moves to prices that people just have a hard time conceptualizing. So, are you worried about XRP? No. We got people. Let's go. Let's see here. A little bit further up in the chat. I will. Meeting you is life-changing. Wow. Thank you for that, Corey. Kind words, man. I probably have somebody once a week reach out to me and just say thank you for some of the stuff that I've done. And I don't do this. I do want to help people. That's why I do it. And when people let me know that it has helped them or given them some faith in something or some hope, and they've seen, changes in their life or benefit from me coming on here and rambling like a crazy person, it means a lot. So thank you, Corey, and thank you to all the people that have reached out over the past year. 2024 hasn't been an easy year. A lot of growing pains for different reasons. I come on here with a smile and a good attitude, or try to. It's not always, rainbows and unicorns in the background. And stuff like that does make a difference, and it makes me thank you. It reminds me why I do it. So anyway, appreciate that. And we'll go ahead and let's see here. We got another person that's asked about Chainlink. I do like Chainlink. Chainlink is an enterprise oracle. You're definitely going to need to be able to move data and value from the real world into smart contracts to be able to allow them to execute for whatever constraints they're built around. And you need a seamless way to do that. Chainlink has really stepped into the role. For that, you have IOTA. You have a few other oracles. You have the time series oracle that Flare developed that incentivizes people to provide good data through their mechanism. I think that Chainlink will continue to be the leader in most enterprise applications. IOTA will likely be the one for, IoT and smart cities and government projects. But how much price appreciation are you going to see on Chainlink? I don't know. I think it'll continue to scale and grow, but I don't think it's going to be, Chainlink was the first token I bought ever. Just full disclosure. I think I got it at like $3.43, and I think I sold it at like $24 in 2020 or 21, early 21. So I made some money on Chainlink too. Early on, I just made money on stuff and didn't really understand what they were for. Like I did. It's like, ooh, buzzword, Oracle, buy that, which I think a lot of people, when you get into the space, you hear all these buzzwords and you don't know who to listen to. My first YouTuber that I ever watched was Digital Dave. I don't know if you guys watch him or not. He's in Thailand. He's retired, sharp guy, older gentleman. He also told me about Theta early on at like 9 cents. It went to $15, which was a game changer for me. So anyway, like, yeah, to answer your question specifically and not ramble, I do think I like Chainlink. I do think it will be used at scale. I just don't know what the potential price appreciation on Chainlink is if you are investing in it. Let's see here. Link price appreciation prediction. No idea. Caspa. I don't know enough about it, to be honest with you. I know that Uphold is extremely bullish on it. The doctor over there called it early on and has had some really good success with some price appreciation on Caspa. We did interview the CTO and president of Casper, the Casper Foundation, just recently here on the channel. If you guys want to go check that out, I know they got hacked, and there's been some frustrations. You had their leading project that was being developed on that chain leave and go to Hedera, and they've migrated, their focus from enterprise solutions specifically over to more retail facing stuff. But I think Casper's going to be around with a C, Casper, like the friendly ghost. I do think that there is going to be some upside there. I just don't know what specific application they're going to get traction in. Same thing with like Cardano. I met Charles Hoskinson. He's been doing a lot of great things for Wyoming and educating people on digital assets. Don't really like how he handled ETHgate and all that. I understand why he was the way he was now. If you guys haven't seen XRP Unleashed, I would highly recommend going to check that out. Chris and Maya shot that and put together a really compelling story around how the SEC benefited. Some people that worked at the SEC benefited from promoting ETH and giving it a clarification early on. There's some other things going on there that are displayed in the film. Nothing that can't be fully backed and corroborated by evidence that they have, which I also appreciate. They didn't speculate on anything. It was all cold, hard facts. So there could be more to it than what was even there, but they didn't speculate on it. So anyway, like I said, Cardano, I don't know how it's used. Avalanche, I think that they have a really interesting blockchain. I've done videos on that. And their consensus protocol, very interesting. I think there's a lot of these blockchains that have specific ways that they work that'll fit certain gaps or models in the market. They just need to figure out what those are. And if you don't have a defined use case, like I'm bullish on Chili's. If you guys don't know what that is, they're issuing NFTs for sports teams. That's what they do. That's their market. They're dominating. Is that going to be a multi-trillion-dollar use case or market? No, but billions for sure. For sure, billions. So Manchester United, Cowboys, like there's a lot of franchises that I think will end up issuing memorabilia, and they're going to look to blockchain to do that at some point and tokenize it. And I think Chili's is going to be the front runner and main solution for that. So I'm bullish on projects that pick a specific niche or use case and have utility and are driving adoption in that area. Do I have to own them all? No. I'm looking for ROI and leverage and cash flow. So that's why I own XRP. Rambling on here. I am going to wrap it up. Probably take one more question here and we'll close it out for the night. We're going to go with the super chat, man. Appreciate you on this. He said, will top 1 to 2% XRP holders be able to retire by 2030? So you got more than 60,000, 30,000 XRP, I think puts you in the top 2%. You tell me if XRP is 5 or 6 digits, say it's $100,000 XRP by 2030. I think that's realistic. Times 30,000 at $300 million. More than that, $3 billion. I think you'd be okay. I think you'd be able to retire with $3 billion. I don't know that there's going to be that many people that hold on to that much XRP for that long. I think when it's $10,000, there's just not going to be a whole lot of people left. I think most people are going to sell off. I think there's probably, I don't know, maybe 5 or 10,000 people on the planet that really have the faith that are going to allow them to hold on to the token and have a significant amount at those numbers and hold on for that long. Like, imagine how many people sold off their Bitcoin at $100 or $1,000 or $10,000. How many OGs still hold 10,000 Bitcoin or 30,000 Bitcoin that bought it at $1? I don't know very many. I know a few, but I don't know very many. And I think it's going to be very similar for XRP holders. I think there's going to be a lot of people that just sell off tranches on the way up, people that have never had money before, people that have never managed money before, people don't realize how to mitigate taxes or establish their estate or get sued, or there's just a lot of ways you can lose money after you have it. So hopefully you're working with professionals that you trust and have been around the block in TradFi, but are making the transition to digital assets or have done their due diligence and understand all these things. We've done our best to vet really good people. So if you want to reach out to digitalfamilyoffice.io, you need a CPA, you need legal, you need wealth management, you need estate planning, you need accountants, you need people for philanthropy, you need insurance. We got it all. I'm not saying to use us. I obviously have a lot of bias when it comes to that. I think what we've put together is the best thing that's out there. But at the end of the day, I just want to encourage people to find these professionals now before price appreciation happens. Because on the other side of that, it's hard to judge people's intent if you haven't dealt with them previous. Sharks come out when there's money. Again, that's why we're locking down the mastermind. When we see price appreciation, we're going to be very diligent about who moves in there after that. So we want to protect our people. We want to protect them from being taken advantage of. And anyway, so to answer your question specifically, yes, I think that most people could retire with $300 million or $3 billion. I think most people would be able to retire. Fun note to end on. Appreciate you guys hanging out with me on Wednesday night. Hopefully this was valuable for you. Again, there's a couple different websites and ways you can reach out if it's meaningful for you. digitalfamilyoffice.io, digitalwealthpartners.net, and mastermind.beyondbroke.com. You can go check it out if you want to be part of the mastermind or want to look at any of the other services we provide. We'd love to work with you. And with that, we'll go ahead and wrap it up. I hope you guys have a wonderful week. Enjoy the holidays with your family. Make memories. I think it's going to be a good one. I think the people that are here now are going to really enjoy the last couple weeks of this year. So God bless, and we will see you guys on the next one.